What's going on, degenerates? Welcome to the Total Takedown UFC 313. On this show, we don't break down the fights as much as we do go over and under. We're looking for an alternative way to make some profit for Saturday's fights. So jump in this thing with me. Let's take a look at some of these numbers. First off, shout out Bet Openly. Every single number I quote on this show today is going to come from a book that doesn't use Bet Openly's numbers. You're going to get better numbers using Bet Openly. Link in the description of the video below. Start saving money. Also get signed up so I can do fun contests and giveaways where you guys have a chance to win some real free cash. Let's get into it. First fight of the night, we've got Santos taking on Aussie Diaz. 2.5 total. Over 2.5 plus 125, under 2.5 minus 160. And again, using Bet Openly, that would be plus 140 and minus 140 on both sides of the number. Winner paying just 1% juice for the transaction fee. I'm going to say under. I've got a hard time seeing this fight go the distance, you guys. It's a relatively low-level MMA fight. Aussie Diaz, just the way he fights, I have a real hard time seeing him against a UFC caliber opponent or almost UFC caliber opponent going a full 15 minutes. He's either going to find a weakness in your game and he's violent and he's offensive, he's going to find a way to hurt you, or he's not up to the level, which I think is more often than not the case, and he's going to end up getting finished by somebody who really belongs at this stage of the game. So at minus 160, I think under 2.5 for the first fight of the night is probably the way to go. The next total I want to kind of bring to your attention here is Santos and Francis Marshall. 2.5 total, over is minus 195. The under 2.5, you're getting about plus 150 or so, and I think this is a dead nuts over, you guys. I really do. Santos got a big finish in his UFC debut. That was the Ultimate Fighter finale. I think that Francis Marshall has shown us that he's tough, he's durable, he's gritty, he's got heart, he is willing to hang in there even if he's getting hurt. And the way Santos strikes, it's those one-at-a-time kind of pot shots. I don't know that those are going to do enough to put Francis Marshall down. That absolutely can do enough to dissuade him, to back him off, to hurt him even, but I don't know if he's going to get a finish out of those type of strikes. On the flip side of this, Francis Marshall, he's training over at ATT. He's a control grappler more often than not. Yes, he's got some submission upside, but more often than not, I think he's going to be grinding on someone like Santos. Unless Santos completely gasses out and Francis gets like a late submission or something like that, I think this is going to go the full 15 minutes. Over 2.5 at minus 195, I think is a relatively fair price, and I think this thing goes the distance more often than not. The next fight that I do want to talk to you about is Bruno Ferreira and Armen Petrosian. This fight is interesting. I'm having a bit of a tough time with this one because you guys know I'm an Armen Petrosian guy and I'm a bit of a Bruno Ferreira hater. However, Bruno keeps winning fights that I don't expect him to. This guy's got raw power, he's got judo hips. Armen Petrosian, big for the weight class, long reach, good distance, decent power, good cardio. He's got everything I'm looking for to bet on. He just appears to not be the type of guy that can make that next step in a full, well-rounded MMA game. He's more of a kickboxer. Well, Bruno's going to give him a kickboxing fight. That's exactly what this is. So I fully expect these guys are going to go at it. The fight is going to more than likely get extended, and at a certain point, I think there's going to be a finish because Bruno is a guy that we've seen tire out if the fight does get extended. So I think late in the fight, Armen Petrosian can find his way to a finish. And if Armen slips up, he is a very durable striker. He's a very good guy. However, Bruno has taken people out before with a simple jab. So I've seen this guy put people down in a big, big way. I think this fight goes under 2.5 at minus 160 makes a lot of sense here to me. Josh Van and Tsuria, the next fight. We've got Josh Van minus 195. I'm sorry, not Josh Van. Over 2.5 is minus 195. Under 2.5 is plus 150. And this is another one similarly to the Francis Marshall fight that I think is kind of destined for an over. Now, that might be because I've lost so much money sprinkling Josh Van by KO, betting on Josh Van round 3, and they just keep on not happening. So maybe I'm biased towards this over because Josh has not been able to find that finish. Tsuria seems like he's maybe the hottest prospect off-road to UFC, the highest ceiling. He's very, very young. He's a very good grappler. Josh Van, we know what this guy does. He defends those takedowns early, but he usually concedes that first round, and then he ramps up the volume and the pace and the aggression as the fight gets deeper. However, he does still have that hole in his game. The grappling grappling weakness. The takedowns are there. He has a good get-up game. He makes his opponents work, but I can really see Ray being able to take this guy down and tie him into a pretzel and buy time, hang on him, drag on him, and not just necessarily be a punching bag late in this fight, but be able to have more success where guys like Cody Durden weren't quite able to get their grappling going towards the end of the fight. I think this kid's slick enough he'll actually be able to get some of that time. So I think this fight gets extended, and it all comes down to whether or not Ray Tsuria can take the beating that Josh Van is going to want to put on him in round 3. But I think this fight goes a full 15 minutes, so I will say the over 2.5 at -195. You will be clinching your butt when this thing gets into round 3, especially if Ray has taken some big deep breaths over in his corner, but I kind of think that's the way it goes. Jalen Turner, Ignacio Bahamondes is the next fight that I want to talk to you about. Over 1.5 -175, under 1.5 +135. I fully expect this fight to get up and over that 1.5, and that's terrifying because Jalen Turner is a beast in round 1. Ignacio Bahamondes is coming off of a big round 1 knockout where he was able to just land a beautiful pull counter and put his opponent away at Noche UFC. Jalen Turner is going to start fast, but he's been kind of minding his gas tank a little bit more recently in his last couple of fights. Ignacio Bahamondes, kind of a builder. He gets more aggressive as the fight continues, and we see him go to a decision into round 3 pretty regularly. I think he's going to mind his P's and Q's, maybe survive a big shot or two, because he's going to have to survive a big shot or two, and then drag Jalen Turner a bit deeper into this fight. Very, very sketchy to lay -175 on that, but I do think that's what happens. So I'll say over 1.5 for Jalen Turner and Ignacio Bahamondes. Finally, let's talk about the main event for a sec before I let you go. Alex Pereira takes on Magomed Ankalaev, and they've got a 2.5 total here. Oddly enough, the 2.5 total is over -165. Under 2.5 is +130. And this is interesting to me because Alex Pereira's last fight with Khalil Roundtree was the one that went the over 2.5. His other fights all ended extremely early. Now, Khalil Roundtree, very durable guy, hits very hard early. Alex Pereira wasn't really concerned with him, so he kind of drug him deep until he was tired and slowed down, and then he was just a sitting duck. So that was excellent strategy by Alex Pereira. Everybody else that he's faced, though, hasn't been able to get out of the first 2 rounds with this guy. Magomed Ankalaev, we have seen this guy get his legs chopped off by Jan Blachowicz. We have seen this guy get popped and hurt on the feet by a guy like Ion Cutelaba. I think he's going to have to come out here and really fight his ass off if he wants to win this fight. We all know the takedowns is a talking point. If he takes down Alex Pereira, what does that look like? Does Magomed have the type of ground and pound or submission game? Will he be able to get Alex out of the fight early if he does that? I'm not entirely certain. But what I do know is Alex Pereira is low-key a little bit chinny. And if Magomed gets in there in boxing range and lands on him rather than that left hook landing, then I think actually Magomed has a chance of winning this fight inside the distance and early. So I don't think we're seeing championship rounds here. I don't think this is a bantamweight fight where the fight's just getting started when the round 4 bell rings. I think we're going to see an old school Alex Pereira fight where these guys are going to hurt each other. Magomed Ankalaev's leg might be compromised. One of these guys is going down in round 2, in my opinion, you guys. I am very tempted on this under 2.5 at plus money for the main event with how much power is going to be chucking around with these 2 big boys. That's the Total Takedown, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me today. We'll see you tomorrow for the undefeated post-weigh-in show. Let's roll.